Hello everyone and welcome to my studio. I'm Kristen Olson Stone. I'd like to show you how to paint this beautiful sunset of Kauai. This is a view of a world famous view called Belle Aqua, and I took this picture when we were visiting that wonderful island, and this is the view from a place called the One Hotel, and it's located in Princeville. So I'm going to bring the horizon way down because the ocean isn't very interesting, but the sky is very interesting. So I'm going to alter the reference photo a little bit, which is something I typically do. So I'm going to start the furthest ridge back about there. This kind of dips down and comes up to a little point and out towards the ocean. And then it has a little foot at the bottom, which is kind of a grove of some pine trees, Norfolk pine trees and ironwoods. We went all the way to this point and went to a beach out there called Tunnels. I should do another video some point of that beach. So here's the next closest part of the coastline. And this one is much shorter. It's got some kind of knobby trees on the top. And then there's one more coming a little bit closer, and there's got a couple of little rocks at the end. And I'm not going to draw the sky. I am going to draw the horizon line, but the sky I'm just going to freely paint. So coming off of the coastline are some lines of water and waves. So I'm just going to kind of make some horizontal lines to show some water movement there. And I'll put a little bit in the front here. We'll add some texture later on. So somebody wrote to me and said, how should I do your video lessons? Should I watch it one time through and then try it, or should I just keep playing and pausing till I get through the whole thing and follow along? And that actually is completely up to you. You should do it however you want to. So I'm going to use a triangle brush. This is a medium triangle brush. These are Silverbrush Belle Aqua brushes, and they're very cool. So I have a small one, this is the small one, and this is the medium. These are similar to these dagger brushes, but as you can see, if I hold them next to each other, the dagger brush is quite thin, and the triangle brush has a little more, it has a better ability to hold more water at the thicker part of it. And they both have a great point. They're really fun brushes to use, and I thought they would be fun to introduce you to these today. So I'm gonna start with this color called Lavender, and I'm gonna start with the sort of big blue cloud in the center. And I don't want it to be as dark as it is in the reference photo, but I thought lavender would be a great color to start off with for this cloud. It's a semi-transparent watercolor. In fact, I think it has some titanium white in it. And this is a palette I created with some colors that I love, and they're all Rembrandt paints. Great stuff. So there's also some soft blue, sort of blue-gray clouds just behind Valley High. So I'm going to make these lighter. And they're more of a warm gray, but I'm starting with this lavender color. And then I'll come back in and I'm going to drop some of the wonderful oranges and yellows around them. And they'll start blending together. Same thing with the clouds I'm putting down here on the horizon. They're obviously not this bright lavender color. They're more of a gray. So once I mix some of my other hues in yellows and oranges and things like that, I'll get a nice layered look. I'll have some colors mixing on the paper, and that'll be really nice. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up another color that I love to work with. This is called Naples Yellow Reddish. And I want to mix that in with some of these clouds on the horizon. So Naples yellow comes in Naples yellow deep, which is more of a, it's like the color of butter, I think, kind of a buttery color. And Naples yellow reddish, which has just a hint of red in it. Great, easy color to work with, great color to have on your palette, very versatile. Now I'm going to add some cadmium yellow in the middle between these clouds, and also some pyrrole orange. And pull that color right through some of the clouds that are made with that fabulous color called lavender. So you can see how the colors are mixing beautifully on the paper. I'm getting some nice textures. And some nice grays, and everything looks very soft and cloud-like and wispy. So dramatic colors, but still very soft and pretty to look at. And that was the effect I wanted to get. And I love the play of the oranges and violets together. It's just a nice contrast. They sort of play off each other and you get kind of a nice vibration. Now, as you go up higher in the sky, it becomes more reddish. So I'm mixing pyrrole orange with permanent red deep. And I'm gonna just pull that color up and up. And I'm going to wiggle my brush through it like this, just creating some nice pockets of wetter areas and drier areas. And then as it moves from left to right, it becomes more pink. So on the left side, it's more of an orangish red, and on the right side, it's more of a pink color. So just pulling this like that. And now I'm going to add some yellow underneath. Really catch that sort of warm glow that's going on in the sky. And I'm going to put a little lemon yellow underneath of that one, which looks really, really bright, but I like that. And then on the far right, I'm going to put a little hint of this turquoise and mix it with the yellow. So this is cobalt turquoise. Really, really nice color. And I just want to mix that with some of this yellow. So pretty. Now at the above the red, there's also more of this turquoise color. And then it fades into more of an ultramarine, or like a French ultramarine or cobalt blue. So I have French ultramarine right now in my palette, but cobalt would be also a great color to have. So I want to have cobalt at the top, or French ultramarine at the top, and then have it fade into this turquoise color. And I'm going to just take my brush with some water, and I just want to keep everything really soft, so I just softened that with some water and just small little strokes of my brush. So I'm going to mix some more of this lavender into this part of the sky while it's wet, and just let those colors kind of move and play and create some nice pockets of beautiful color. I'm going to pull that down into this pink part of the sky. I really like how that looks. So my style of painting, I tend to leave these white spots. I just kind of like how that looks. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. That's just sort of a style thing, I guess. But it's definitely something I like to do. While this is drying, I'm going to start working on Valley High now. So I'm going to use Lavender again, and I'm going to put that just above this ridge. So I've got 1, 2, 3 ridges. So I'm putting this color down first. And now I'm going to get Hooker's Green, and I'm going to mix that with French Ultramarine. Not quite dark enough, so I'm going to mix some quinacridone. This is quinacridone purple bluish. There we go. Just wanted to get a nice rich dark. So I want to make sure that it's dark at the top and has kind of a bluish cast, but then as it goes down to just above the ridge in front of it, it lightens in value. So just like that. And then this little foot here. I need more of this blue. And I think I'm also going to add, some more of this Naples yellow reddish to the bottom of this, just to get a little more warmth into that lighter value. You can see how versatile this color is. It's so easy to use. There's some colors that actually make painting easier. Some colors make it harder. I would say that Naples yellow and Naples yellow reddish and lavender are some colors that definitely make painting easier. All right, so now I'm going to do the next ridge. I'm going to add some burnt umber and Hooker's Green. I'll start with those two. So I want this one to be a little warmer as it's coming closer to me, closer to the viewer. And I want it to sort of stand out in front of the lighter bottom part of the mountain behind it. Now the end of Valley High here is getting, I can tell it's going to dry too light, so I'm going to add some red and some quinacridone purple bluish, and also a little bit of this color. This is called Neutral Tint. Neutral Tint is a violet toned dark, similar to Ivory Black, but has some violet tones. It's a very pretty color. Another really useful color. And we'll just blend that out there. Okay, so the next ridge, also at the end here, it's quite dark. So I'm going to just darken that a little bit. So I'm darkening the bottom edge, and I'm going to take some of that color for the little rocks at the end of this point. And I'm going to go along the bottom edge of this closest section of the coastline. And then again, I'm going to come in with this green, but I want it to be more of a yellow green. So I'm going to mix some cadmium yellow. That's cadmium yellow medium, by the way. Not deep, not light, just cadmium yellow medium. All right, so now jumping over to the ocean. Oh, and before we jump to the ocean, I'm going to give these trees a little more definition. There we go. Okay, so the ocean is a very pretty turquoise, but it's also reflecting the sky. So I'm going to start with a mixture of cobalt turquoise and Naples yellow. So I'm going to start with that. And as I bring it forward, I'm going to put some red tones and some yellow tones as I bring it more forward. So I don't want it to be the same color from top to bottom in the ocean. So now I'm going to put some red into it here. It's reflecting the sky. So there's some beautiful red tones sort of on the left side in the water. And then there's also some beautiful pink tones. Oh, and I have this wonderful color. This is called Rose. And that's a beautiful color. It's also a semi-transparent color. It makes beautiful violets, and it's sort of like a bubblegum pink. Very pretty color. But you can see how beautifully that's blending with the turquoise colors in the water. Now I'm going to put some more of this cobalt turquoise in the center, and I'm going to add some more red to it, and also some more of this French ultramarine. The water is a little bit darker towards the horizon. So I'm layering wet colors on top of wet colors. So while that's drying, I'm going to go back into my mountain in the background. I'm going to add some more strokes of Naples yellow to emphasize the ridges and textures of this mountain. So I just think that's a nice effect. So now I'm going to start adding some texture to the ocean, and I'm going to use cobalt turquoise plus a little bit of phthalo blue. And I'm just going to make some nice marks. I'm going to gray it down a little bit. That looks too blue to me. So I'm going to add a little bit of just the red mixture that I have on my palette. So I don't want my lines to be too even. I just want them to show a little movement in texture. Just some water kind of coming off the sea cliffs. Just to show it's not a lake, that it's the ocean. So I waited until this was dry. And it's not 100% dry, but it's mostly dry, so my colors aren't bleeding. So sometimes I like to paint wet colors on top of other wet colors and just get that effect. And other times I like to just get a nice crisp edge. If you're unsure if your paper is dry enough, you can always use the back of your hand to touch it. The backs of our hands are actually more sensitive than our fingertips. Sensitive to how wet something would be, for instance. So now I'm using more of a burgundy color down in the front So this burgundy color could be made from Madder Lake or alizarin crimson. Mine was made from quinacridone rose and quinacridone purple bluish. I'm just getting a nice little bit of texture and color. And I like this because I've got a pinkish texture on this side, and this is more of an orangish red texture. And then back here, it's more of a turquoise color. So I'm emphasizing this turquoise, or this orange just a little more on this side. So I like to think of having color shapes within one big element. So the element would be this ocean, and then the color shapes would be the pink and the orange and the turquoise. I'm also going to make the horizon a little more defined. So I'm just using some French ultramarine, and I'm just darkening that from left to right. There we are. There's something really calming about having a horizon in a painting. So I'm just darkening this a little bit as well. And I'm still going to darken the horizon a tiny bit more. Just like that. Now I want to work on these clouds a little more, so I've mixed Naples yellow and lavender. And even though I love this bright lavender color, I feel like it needs to be toned down a little bit for my painting. And I'm going to put some layers of it here in the sky. So I like to layer colors in the sky to make clouds. I just think that looks really beautiful. Kind of gives the movement, and clouds are layered. You know, you're seeing different layers of clouds when you look out at the sky, especially when there's a lot of clouds. And I think it's more evident at sunset. You can really see the layers. So this is a nice color to just layer with. I'm going to pull some of that up here also and just layer it over some of the reds and yellows. I want to make sure that my layered shapes are not too even, that I have different shapes going on. So going up towards the top. I also love the way these paints that have a little bit of ground pigment in them, I just love how they look when they're drying. I think those textures add a richness to the painting that you can't get with colors that are transparent. And I love transparent colors too, but sometimes just calls for these more opaque or semi-transparent colors. I'm going to add a few more detail strokes of blue, but I'm graying it down. Just a couple. And I'm going to add some violet to this blue. So I've got this nice layer of colors of soft oranges and pinks and violets. And now I'm just layering a little bit of this blue color, and it suddenly looks like the ocean. Painting is so magical, and I just love it. Love to just sort of watch things come to life. So I'm going to make a few thicker, broader strokes closer to the front. And I think I'm also going to add a little more orange. I want to get a nice clean color. I'm going to add a little more orange to, whoops. Okay, I'm going to add a little more orange to the sky and some red. Just want to emphasize that color a little more. Still going to add some more gray over this lavender. I still think it's a little too, standing out too much, a little too purple. And I'm going to add some French ultramarine to it. So I've got the nice gray tones and a little bit of blue. There. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and following along while we paint this beautiful sunset scene of Kauai. Happy painting, everyone.